Sam Brito is a Sydney-born author and writer who has been practicing journalism for over 20 years. He has previously worked as a journalist for The Telegraph and as a writer for New York tabloid Star magazine. He has published 5 books and currently writes an opinion column called All Men Are Liars for the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age, where he commentates on modern-day Australian society.
Hi Sam. So, tell us, how did you get into journalism?
I did a 3-year cadetship with the Murdoch Press, and then I left and moved to New York for 4 years and ran amok there.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I read that you did write for The Star, which was a tabloid in New York.
Working on a tabloid newspaper and working for tabloids hones your news sense.
Tell me about some of your publications.
This is the first book I ever wrote.
Yep.
Took me ages. But it's advice I would give to my children if they were born, if I had children.
Yeah.
And when I wrote them, I didn't have children. And the first thing in it is All Men Are Liars. And so it was doing very well. And when the Herald first suggested I write a blog for them about men's issues, they wanted it to attract female readers as well.
Yeah.
And they thought All Men Are Liars.
Where do you find inspiration from?
Yeah, I think you just keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open, and I like to read. I think reading is essential if you want to be a writer of any sort of description. You've got to see what other people are writing about, and I love ideas. I love new ideas, and I've come to a lot of different topics later in life. You know, like philosophy and international relations, and politics and different political philosophies, and I find it interesting. So I try to synthesize that into what I do.
What makes a good story?
And you walk along the street and you see things and you hear things, and you've just got to you've just got to think laterally all the time.
News sense is something that you can't teach, but at the same time you can encourage. I always say to people, if someone tells you something, you go, fuck off. You know?
Yeah.
Are you serious? And you're really, that's a good story. You know?
Alright. Yeah, and you're not afraid to write about controversial topics.
I wrote a piece about visiting a prostitute, and though, being involved in abortion, about doing cocaine, about the breakup with my ex, and I think when you admit failings, when you admit that you've got flaws, I think people like that.
What was the move from print to online like?
I was in the original startup team for 9MSN. 9MSN was the first online news service in Australia, and we didn't really know what we were doing. It was, it was, I think we knew that it was the future, but we didn't realise how quickly it would take off. And we were trying to replicate the printed world in the online world, which has not been sort of the way things have panned out.
Yeah.
Reader interaction has proved to be a primary factor, a primary point of engagement.
Yeah.
And things like videos and podcasts and interactive maps and all that sort of stuff. That was impossible when we first started. The thing I always say about the internet is it's the revenge of the writer. There's a lot of people who write for newspapers who never actually get an idea of how popular or unpopular their words are. And the internet removes all of that uncertainty, because you see your traffic figures, you see who's clicking on you, you see how engaged they are. So I always say to writers, you should be excited about this, because if you're a good writer, you'll be rewarded with traffic and you'll be rewarded with reader engagement.
Sam is currently working on his 6th novel, and he continues to publish his weekly column for the Sun Herald and The Age.